Hey y'all, I'm Tiffany. This is our small town life. My family of 7, we live in a small town in rural Alabama. Show you what it looks like living in a small town in the southern United States. I would love to have you be a part of our family if you're not already. Typical content is, like I said, just letting you have a peek into our life, showing you around some small towns here in Alabama. These back porch chats are very important to me though. That's what we're doing today. Back porch chat, but taking it off the back porch. I wanted to come out here and sit. Mom and David have been working on a fire pit area. I thought, you know what, I just want to go out there and sit for a little bit today. You'll probably hear the chickens. So we're taking the back porch chat off the back porch. But these are very important to me because it's my way of inviting you to come and just sit with me for a little while. I've said it before, but some of my sweetest memories growing up are Mama and Papa's house, and they would have friends that came by and they would just sit on the porch together. They might be shelling peas or breaking beans or shucking corn, or they may just be sitting there hanging out for a while. And I think the world would be a better place if we'd all just sit with each other for a little while. So this is my way of inviting you to come and hang out with me for a little bit. I had something over the last few weeks that's been, and y'all, the wind's blowing, my eyes are gonna water. I may have mascara all over my face. It'll be all right. But over the last couple of weeks, I've had this thought, and I've been trying to make sense of how I put it into a video for you. And I wanted to share with you some very specific moments in my life that are etched into my memory. And I was like, okay, God, I want to share this. I'm feeling led to share this, but how do I make it come together? What is your purpose behind me sharing this? Because I don't want to share just for the sake of sharing. And what I want to do is I'm going to share some very specific moments in my life. You get to know me a little bit better. But I want to talk to you about when we make plans for ourselves, we make our own plans, and then what it looks like to surrender to the plan that God has for us. So let's just go way back to, and like I said, I'm going to share bits of my story with you, but I want to encourage you to think about maybe some things in your life where you've made your plans and things have either not worked out or the timeline's not what you thought it would be, and maybe what God's plan for you would be. So let's go way back to when I was early teenage years. And I was at a place where I was really desiring God's plan for my life. And I had been praying, God, show me what you have for me, the future that you have for me, the plan that you have for me. Guide my path. Let me in on what you've got planned for me. And I remember sitting in my room at my mom and daddy's house, and very clearly, it wasn't an audible voice, but it might as well have been, very clearly, God speaking to me and saying, you'll speak to thousands of people. And just being overcome with emotion and gratitude. And I had a prayer journal, and I wish I could find it. I wouldn't have gotten rid of it. I wish I could find it. But I prayed and I wrote in this prayer journal just thanking God for speaking to me and showing this to me. Fast forward several years, graduating high school. That's a big time in your life when you're making plans, right? And I found myself at a place where, maybe without even meaning to, I was making plans off of what I wanted and what I thought it meant to be successful, what I wanted for my life. God, I still very much see how He has had His hand in my life all my life. Even when, and we've been given free will, even when we make our own choices, I still see how, maybe if I had been more in touch with and seeking out God's plan, things might have looked a little different. He knew what I was going to choose. He knew what I was going to do. And I can see where He blessed me and He taught me lessons through all of it. But anyway, I graduated high school in May. Justin and I got married in June. Very much see God's hand in that. Wouldn't change that for anything. We moved off to college about a month later. We went to Auburn, and we were there for about a year, and we decided to move back home, attend college closer to home. I thought that I knew what it meant to be successful, and I thought that I knew what I needed to do to be successful. I was determined and knew what I had planned out for myself. I thought that I knew what was best for me. You couldn't have told me different. You couldn't have told me different. And it's why sometimes I am a little hesitant when somebody says, what's your 5-year plan? What's your 10-year plan? There was a time in my life, early 20-somethings, Tiffany would have told you. I thought I knew. I thought I knew what my life was going to look like in 5 years and in 10 years. And I'm not saying, hear me out, y'all, I'm not saying it's wrong to have goals or to have hopes and plans for the future. What I want to encourage you to do is pray that God would align the desires of your heart with the plan that He has for you. Early 20-something Tiffany was just doing what Tiffany thought was best, planning how Tiffany thought was best. You graduate college, you have the career, you have the 2 kids, and you drop them off at daycare, you go to your 9 to 5, you pick them up, you have the big house, the nice cars, the big bank account. That's what I thought success was. And I had my thoughts and my plan on how you get there. Another very specific moment in my life that I can remember, Justin and I, so after we moved back and we were attending college closer to home, we moved back from Auburn, I was given the opportunity to work in a career, in a job that was, I loved it. I loved it. And still to this day, I'm like, God, if you ever call me back to working outside of the home, this is where I would love to be. I really enjoyed the job. And I remember Justin and I, we were still in college at the time, and we had gone to Bass Pro Shop, and we were standing over in the section where the wind might be blowing. Hope it's not too loud. We were standing over in the section where the boats and 4-wheelers and those kinds of things are, and we had been having this conversation, and I don't remember the exact conversation that we had been having, but I remember, and it might have even been something like talking about buying a boat or something. Like I can't remember the exact conversation we were having, but what I can remember is standing there thinking, by the time I'm 30, we'll be set. I have my good job. I'm going to keep moving up. When we graduate college, he can get a job at the same place. So it's my plan, y'all. We'll have good paying jobs, big bank account. We'll move closer to work. We'll have our 2 kids. We had Audrey at the time, and I might have been pregnant with Easton at that time. I think I was. And by the time I'm 30, I was picturing out the age of my kids, and I knew how it was going to be. Like, I knew that's what life was going to look like. If I could go back and stand there in Bass Pro Shop and tell young 20-something-year-old Tiffany, actually, honey, this is what your life's going to look like when you're in your 30s, your mid-30s. 20-something Tiffany would have laughed and said, no, you're wrong. You got the wrong person. But praise God that he had his plan. I would have told you, no, that's not, no. You're saying we have 5 kids and a bunch of chickens, and you work from home sharing your life on social media. You drive a car with over 200,000 miles on it. What? But, oh, what I would have been missing out on if God had not shifted where I was headed, if I had not been obedient to his plan and his purpose. And y'all, I went down kicking and screaming. We'll get there. But I went down kicking and screaming. But he got me out of my own way. I don't say that I regret going to college, because I was taught a lot about what we're capable of. If I had really been seeking out God's plan for me, is that the path I would have gone down? I don't know. I regret not being fully focused on what he had for me. And I regret not being... It's hard to say I regret, because everything's gotten me to where I am, right? And God knew that this is how it was all going to work out. And God used my choices to show me things about myself. So we ended up, before I get to talking about graduating college, I ended up leaving this job that I loved. Didn't want to, but I knew it was, it felt like it was going to be what was best, because at the time, Justin and I were both attending college full time, both working full time. He worked out of town, so he would travel to Atlanta and stay gone all week and come home on the weekends. Did that for years. We had 2 small children that I was getting where they needed to go and trying to take care of things at home, going to school, going to work, commuting a long distance to work. And I felt like it would be best if I took a job closer to home. And so that's what I did. But even then, I was like, well, one day I'll get back to there. And then when we graduate, and then Justin can get to there. And then, So I started working at this new job, and we graduated college while I was there. Justin and I both graduated at the same time. And looking back on it, I'm like, how did we do it? Working full time, having 2 small children, school full time, him working out of town. How did we do it? But like I said, it showed me what we're capable of. Not long after we graduated, I started feeling this desire to be at home, to be focused more on home. And I didn't really know what that meant or what that looked like. It had never even felt like an option to me. And then here I am, I've just graduated college, and I'm like, I can't leave my career now. And it had never really felt like an option, because it had never been really presented to me as an option. Wind's blowing. Yeah, pretty hard. I hope y'all aren't shaking around too much. That breeze is a little cold. But through school, that had never really been presented to us as an option. You go to college, you have the career. The generations before us, the couple of generations before us, was the first time I feel like women were really working outside of the home, going to college, and then that rolled over onto us. And well-meaning and well-intentioned. But at this point in my life where I was at, it was just really kind of this new idea and feeling that I would be at home. And thinking, well, there's just no way. That's just not possible. Get it out of your mind. Just stop, Tiffany. That's not even possible. And I was going full force into what would be a disaster. And God put the brakes on and got me out of my own way, to be completely honest. And without it being part of my plan, I became a full-time homemaker, stay-at-home wife and mama. And in the beginning, it was devastating and crushing. And I thought, how in the world, this was not, how are we even going to make this work? You may be in a place where your plans have changed, or life feels like it's in a place where you're like, this feels devastating. This feels crushing. This is not what I planned for myself. I know the feeling, but y'all, God's plan, if you will lean into God's plan for you and seek out what He has for you, God's plan for your life will always be more beautiful than what you could plan for yourself. Always. It worked. It worked. I'm not saying it was easy. Still to this day, it is not easy, but it is a beautiful life. I don't know where God will have me in 5 years or in 10 years. And I touched on this earlier. What I want in 5 years, yes, I have hopes. I have dreams. And I'm praying that they constantly align with God's plan. But wherever I am in 5 years, I want to be right where God has me, doing what He has me to do. In 10 years, I want to be right where God has me, doing what He has me to do. Today, I want to be right where God has me, doing what He has me to do. Whatever that looks like. I remember when I started, and this is so let's talk about things coming full circle. When I started YouTube, for about a year before, I had been feeling like it was something I should do. And I was not, so once God got me out of my own way and started making things happen, it was a moment of almost like waking me up to, you need to be seeking out God's purpose for your life. And from that moment, and I'm human and I make mistakes, but I have tried to be very intentional about where God would have me. That has meant going back to work part-time in some seasons of life. And that was hard for me to do. God blessed me through it. But when I started feeling this pull towards sharing on social media, it's not that I was saying, no, I won't do that. But it was more of making excuses of why I don't need to do it right now. Well, I don't have the right equipment. I don't even know exactly what the focus of the channel would be. I don't really know, I don't even have a name for the channel. All these things and excuses that I was making to put it off. And then finally one day I said, you know what? We're just jumping in. And if things change, I don't know. I don't know what the plan for this is, God, but it's what I'm feeling led to, and I'm going to be obedient. I had been sharing on YouTube for probably a year or so, and I remember having this moment where it was like I just realized all of a sudden that every time I share a video, I'm talking to thousands of people. I'm speaking to thousands of people. And it took me right back to that young teenage girl sitting in her bedroom, hearing God tell her, one day you'll speak to thousands of people. God is good, y'all. And His plan is good. What a blessing this is. What a blessing each one of you are. Sometimes I think about how life might be different if I had not been obedient in different areas of my life. YouTube being one of those. The relationships I could have missed out on. Being a stay-at-home mom and thinking about how when I was working outside of the home, I thought, if you'd have told me that I would have 5 kids, I would have said, there's no way. Moments that I could have missed out on. Relationships I could have missed out on. Blessings I would have missed out on if hadn't gotten out of my own way. God's plan was so much more beautiful than the one I had for myself. Doesn't mean things are easy, but I am blessed. And I don't know what God has for me. I have some things that I desire, that I feel like God has put in my heart. Some things that I feel like my future might hold. Some days I'm like, I don't see how that's even possible or how those things are going to happen. But God, if you can make this happen, I'm not going to say that there's nothing you can't do. You told this young teenage girl she'd be speaking to thousands of people. That young teenage Tiffany was like, I don't know how in the world that's going to happen, but God, I believe you and I trust in you. And I want to have that same mentality, that same thought process now. I don't see how some of these things can happen, but you can do it, God. you can do it, and I'm believing and trusting in you. I hope I was able to pull these thoughts together in a way today that made sense. I just really felt like sharing a little bit more of my story and about what God can do when we get out of our own way, and how sometimes we make our own plans, but we have to surrender those to what God has for us. Whatever that might look like for you, whatever area of your life that may look like for you. I kind of went and told you about career path and touched on like family size and those kinds of things that are different in my life than what I originally thought or planned. But y'all, I'm talking about every aspect of our life. I find myself constantly in everything I do praying, God guide me, God lead me, God, what do you have for me? Whatever it may be for you in your life, know that God's plan is good and He wants good for you. That does not mean easy, does not mean it will always be easy, but you will be blessed if you seek out His plan. If you will pray, and I'm not telling you don't have goals, don't have dreams, don't have hopes for the future, but pray that the desires of your heart would align with the path that God has for you. You'll be blessed by it. All right, y'all. I'm gonna head in. Getting a little chilly. Probably should have put on a longer sleeve shirt. I'm still adjusting, y'all. It's not, and when I say cold, y'all, it's like in the low 60s maybe. But for Alabama, that's starting to get a little chilly. I'm gonna head in. Actually, I'm gonna go feed the chickens, make sure they have plenty of water, head in and get some things done in the house. Thank y'all for sitting with me and catching up, hanging out for a little while today, just being here together. I love you. I appreciate you, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, y'all.